Chamber Live on Facebook Live. I am Christine Kernan, Vice President of the Princeton-Mercer Regional Chamber, and I'm pleased to have as my guests today Marlon Zukowski, Director of the Interior Architecture and Design for Ware Malcolm, and Brett Margulies, President of Innovative Commercial Interiors. Brett's career at ICI spans 25 years, and he was appointed president of the company in 2013. Since then, the company has doubled in volume and has become one of New Jersey's prominent office furniture dealerships. Brett has over 30 years of design experience and has a passion for creating stunning interior spaces. Marlon Zukowski brings over 35 years of expertise to the Ware Malcolm team as the Director of Interior Architecture and Design for the Newark and Princeton offices. Marlon has lent her keen design eye and leadership capabilities to projects across a range of markets, including building repositioning strategies, common area improvements, corporate office, hospitality, residential, retail, education, and industrial. Brett and Marlon will be discussing what companies need to address as they begin to bring their employees back to the workspace, creating a space of health and wellness, rearranging space to meet current guidelines, and much more. Brett and Marlon will be taking questions towards the end of the broadcast, so please feel free to place your questions in the comments area of the newsfeed. Brett, so take it away, guys. And
Thank you, Christine. Thank you.
So I'm sure as everybody knows that the governor lifted the work from home order, but he is still encouraging everyone to stay at home if they can. This is now week 14 that I've been working at home. I'm sure everybody has similar scenarios. We do know that people do want to get back to the office, and our goal is to give you some ideas on how to do that safely. And really there's 3 timelines that we're considering on the return to work. The most immediate is returning to work, within the next month or so before there's a vaccine or a cure. The next timeline is people returning to their current work places when there is a cure or a vaccine. And then the longer term timeline is when somebody's current lease is up and they have to move and they really want to think about their new workplace strategy and how they implement new strategies in a post-COVID world.
Right. Like you, I started from the beginning working from home remotely. But with our business, I did get into the office. We have a lot going on with truckers and products. And we, started to help companies reconfigure space to make it a little more safe. So like what you're saying, what's the current situation looking like? How are we going to work through the, with the pandemic?
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at the future of the office space. Marlon, you're going to be a big part of that and creating, safer spaces, maybe a little more spread out. But there's going to be a redesign, I think, to the commercial office.
Yeah. And I'm assuming, most people are working in multi-tenant buildings and they're going to all rely on their landlords for the recommended protocols for the building common area. So really today, the only thing I'm really going to be addressing is what happens within people's offices.
Right.
And when this first started happening, we were recommending that clients get rid of all their furniture and start all over. So we really wanted to have like a common sense guide for what people need to do to return to their office and not really completely redesign the workspace. So really go ahead, sorry.
I tend to agree totally. I don't think it's a time where, people should be looking at getting rid of their furniture and buying new products that are going to be taller panels and things like that. I think it's working through the pandemic and really creating, keeping up with the social distancing rules, spreading out, and working with the products that they have, maybe facing people in different directions. But, we're going to touch on that a lot about the common sense part of, social distancing and just staying safe from each other.
Yeah, and we know that perception is reality. So we think that communication is the most important first step for any company. I know that my leadership team has communicated with all 24 of our offices across the country. and to let us know what they were, what they were doing. And for me, it was very comforting to know, because there's so many unknowns right now. And then, so they were completely transparent with what we were doing. We have had 8 offices go back in other parts of the country where the cases are trending downward. Certainly New Jersey and New York will probably be the last of the offices of ours to open up.
Right. I don't know if you know, but right now I'm kind of traveling through the U.S., visiting job sites in an RV. And it's very different all over the country. So, a larger firm like yours that has multiple locations, you're going to have different things going on. So like out here in Oklahoma, pretty much everything's open and operating just as normal. I don't think they understand it the way that we see it in New Jersey. So it's very complicated, and transparency is the key. It's what people see is going to make them feel a certain way. So, in the past, you didn't want to see your cleaning crews. Well, today, when you're exiting the building, you want to see the cleaning crew, and you're going to want to see that, someone cleaning out the bathrooms and things like that. It's going to make people feel a little more secure and safe to come into these environments.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a person that's always looking for the silver lining. And I think before the pandemic that the work-life balance was really off. And most firms didn't really have a work from home policy in place. And obviously that's all changed. And I personally hope that we never go back to the way it was before, because I know my team's productivity has increased and everyone's doing well. And to me as a leader, that's really, really important.
Right. So Marlon, what are going to be some of the things that you're going to be doing to, keep your people coming in safely? I know a lot of companies talk about starting in percentages. So maybe 20%, then 40%, and slowly bring people in. So how do you see that working for you guys?
Well, everybody's workplace is unique and everyone's culture is unique. So what we're doing, and I'm going to just use our firm as an example, we're bringing 20% of the people back first. So the first thing that we had to do was really look at our floor plan to understand where people could sit. Keeping a 6-foot circulation aisle clear for people to circulate, and then doing, actually drawing circles on the plans to see where people can sit. And one thing that's going to change is that people aren't going to necessarily go back to their current workstation, because we have instituted a clean desk policy. So everybody has to take all of their stuff home, completely clean and empty their desk, so that we can identify the number of workstations that are going to be safe for people to sit in and follow all the CDC guidelines. So, and when we individually polled all of our staff members, and it's going to be voluntary for who wants to go back. There's different people, some, have kids at home, there may be underlying health conditions, and we're not pressuring anybody to go back anytime soon. But the people that do go back won't necessarily go back, as I said, to their desks. They're going to go back to a safe designated desk. And we have a schedule in place that when you do go in, it's going to be week on, week off, or for the larger offices, it may be a 3-week rotation. And that's because we don't want to have to clean the desks every night. So if you have a designated desk, you go to that designated desk, then you'll sit there for the day, or for the week rather. We're also eliminating the use of the kitchen and pantry. So everybody has to bring their own food. There's going to be no shared food. And I think one of the hardest things that people are challenged with is that we are requiring masks to be worn in the office.
We implemented a mask rule basically when you enter the building. Our situation's a little different, where we have a warehouse and we still are receiving products. So what we had to do is kind of create isolation zones. So we have salespeople that, believe it or not, we have to go to job sites. We have to mark floors. We have to do our job. So we kind of keep the sales team separated, from the internal staff. And they're all kind of separated in a way where we're in different locations of the building. One nice thing about our site is we do have a showroom, so we are able to spread out a little more. Like we have more room to work in, but you just have to keep the common sense rules. If you're going to go out and be with people, don't go to work. You have to create little cliques of groups, again, for feeling safe. So it gets complicated. One of the things that we've been doing is, just like you, creating bubble diagrams on existing floor plans to show our customers, if you're going to start 20%, here's where you should put the people. Every business has their own model. I find in some larger companies actually have a team in place just for this pandemic. So,
Yeah.
what are the the 5 rules that you saw? What were those again?
Brett, you're breaking up a little bit. I don't know what's going on. And now you're frozen. So one thing, I was touring a site recently with a client, and they had a great sign up in the lobby, which I thought really resonated with me. And it was said, do the 5. And the 5 were hands, wash them often, elbow, cough into it, face, don't touch it, feet, stay 6 feet apart, and feel. If you feel sick, stay home. I mean, it's so common sense. It's not complicated. And I don't want people to be afraid. And one of the things that we're also recommending is that when people do go back for the first day, that they don't go back as a regular work day, and expect to be productive. Go back sort of as a trial run. Drive to the office, park, walk through, see what it feels like, be back in the office space, but don't expect to be there all day and be productive, because it's new, and people have concerns, and rightly so. By the way,
did I come back on?
You're back. You're back.
Right.
Yes, you're back.
So when people enter a building lobby and they have multiple floors, are you starting to see like stair towers? One's an up, one's a down.
Yeah.
Elevators to be very, concerning for a lot of people that have been isolated for so long, just touching the buttons alone, door handles and things like that. So sanitizer products are, number one, they're very hard to get right now. But, most buildings are going to have sanitation stations in the lobbies, by the elevators. I know Palmer Square has them all over the place.
Yeah.
So how do people navigate really through a building?
Well, again, it depends on if it's a multi-story building and how many stories it is. Most of the buildings that we're doing the base building work in, they're doing exactly what you just said. There's going to be an upstair and a downstair, and then the elevators are going to be limited in terms of occupancy. Some of the bigger high-rise buildings that we're doing work in New York City, they're going to have designated elevator operators so that nobody touches the keypad anymore. So, maybe it's going to be a limit of 2 or 3 people in an elevator, depending upon the size of the elevator. They'll go in, they'll tell the operator what floor. So that, again, trying to eliminate the touchless, make everything as touchless as possible. We've been encouraging all the landlords that we work with to, while the buildings are quiet, if they don't have touchless fixtures in their restrooms, to replace them all with touchless. But I think what you also just said, there's going to be sanitized stations set up everywhere. So when you don't have access to a restroom to wash your hands, you at least have access to some type of hand sanitizer that you can disinfect your hands.
Right. Yeah, you start seeing people walking around with even, small little personal bottles. So, aside from navigating through the building, a lot of companies are going to open and they're not going to really accept visitors, I think, right away.
Yeah.
So it's just really navigating through the space. What we've also done in our bubble diagrams of where people should be placed, we're also doing walking through flow diagrams. So how should people walk through the space so that you're not really walking into each other?
Yeah, avoiding collisions.
Avoiding collisions is the key.
Yeah.
There's going to be the situation where you are going to be walking right towards a person, and someone's going to have to step aside and get out of the way and allow that other person to walk through. So the flow of your workspace is going to be key. And then really I like what you're doing, where you're clean office. Everything is cleaned, wiped down at the end of the day. I think is very important. And again, the more people see that people are respecting and living these rules, it will be easier to bring them back.
Yep, I agree. And we, one thing, again, me with my silver lining, I'm always looking for, and wellness, has always been part of the conversation in workplace strategies, but in my opinion, it's never been important enough. And now it's really come to the forefront of workplace strategies. And there's a program that's called WELL, WELL, all in capital letters. And it's really about the people inside workplace and their wellness. So when LEED was introduced into commercial buildings many years ago, LEED was about the building and the health of the building, and WELL is about the health of the people that are inside the buildings. And I've had many conversations with people about WELL over the last several months, and the principles of WELL. And one of the principles of WELL is indoor air quality, and that's one thing I think that we've been talking about all these different cleaning strategies, and bleach is a common solution that people are suggesting. But bleach it's a toxic gas that off gases, and if the HVAC system isn't designed in a way that it can move the air, circulate the air through the space, then you don't want to be breathing, the bleach that is now going to be permeating the interiors of spaces. So those types of things are going to have to be considered as we, navigate through, how to make sure that the spaces are clean.
Well, what's funny about that is our lead line manufacturer, Technion, basically put together, a report on cleaning fabric. And one of the things that they did talk about was cleaning, with bleach a little bit. And they have fabric products that aren't going to fall apart after you do it. But you bring up a very good point about the air quality in the buildings. I think that's almost as big as anything else.
Yeah.
Is, how do you not spread the germs through your air system?
Yeah.
And, that's a little beyond furniture.
Yeah.
With furniture, what we've been doing a lot of the sneeze guards and things like that, especially for retail operations like a dentist office. The reception area is going to want to have a hanging guard.
Yeah.
The big push was lower panels and height adjustability, and now it's come back, and now it's how do we fix our low panels and what happens when the person raises their desk. So there's products out there that you could add to your panels and create more protection, but there again, it's a temporary fix.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we kind of just say, let's reposition, let's work it out. We also found that Technion's glass prices in a lot less than these plexi screens. There is a lead time, but it integrates better with the furniture. So, and that's more of a permanent situation. So, it's challenging, and every company's requirements are going to be a little different. But I think the air quality and the HVAC systems must be addressed, not only in the individual tenant suites, but in the building.
Yeah, for sure. And as we started out saying, we're not recommending that people make wholesale exchanges to their environments day one. There's too many unknowns. We don't know the timeline. So again, a phased return, a safe phased return, starting with 20%, eventually going to 50%, and then 75%. And I know, again, where Malcolm, we've made a decision, at the corporate level, we're never going above 75% again. So as our leases expire and we roll into a new lease, we're going to be looking at a workplace strategy, and it's going to be 75% of the people at the office. I participated in a global CoreNet hackathon, they called it, and we're coming up with all these concept of what the future of the workplace is going to look like. And we had to make a bold statement. What's the purpose of the office? And I think we really distilled it down to its community, its culture, and its ideation.
Right.
And those things can't be replaced by Zoom Thank goodness for Zoom. It's saved us all during this, this time period. But there's nothing like the in-person meeting, especially when you're in a creative field, to be able to bounce ideas off people. We're involved with material selections regularly, so we need to have our library. So there's a place for the office, and I think in all companies there's going to be a place for the office. But I think the office of the future is going to be different than the office of today.
Just to step back for a second, you said that you were going to go 75% max capacity, and you're going to look for new space. Do you feel that your square footage requirement is actually going to be less because you have less people, or do you think that you're still going to need about the same space that you would have at full 100% capacity, but now you're going to be more spread out?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a balance. I think in the end, we'll probably need slightly less space, but I don't think it's going to be significant. Because as you said, the density of benching, I think even when there is a vaccination or a cure, people are going to want their space again. And so, we're going to really start planning all of our offices on the 6-foot module. We just think it's again, perception is reality, and people want to have that level of privacy, to have that level of comfort, to be in the workplace.
Yeah, I do believe that the redesign is going to be, currently changing dramatically, and just seeing how products are going to be arranged is going to be interesting to me, specific. But I do look forward to the challenges ahead. We are helping out our customers the best we can right now with helping them move into the office space and then working through it. But ultimately, the redesign, I think you're probably starting it now.
Yeah.
And the furniture, applications and designs, it's going to be interesting to arrange it, have a certain walk flow through the space, and still feel comfortable through it all. So it's a challenge. I think right now, what do we need to do to bring people back safely is common sense. It's going to be respecting other people. And keep in mind, a lot of people that don't wear a mask, the mask is so that we don't spread it to other people. And I think people think that, they're wearing a mask so that they don't get it. It's so that they don't spread it. So it's respecting other people, and I think that's the key. Wash your hands, your elbows, the whole thing. And I think we'll get through this,
Well, it was interesting when in October, I started working with a new client, and we had just finished all the programming exercises. And during the whole programming, a lot of the end users were saying, we want to be able to work from home part-time. And this company had a 0 work from home policy. So when this happened, they were completely ill prepared. Nobody was on a laptop. They had very limited VPNs and access to servers. So they had to quickly pivot and obtain laptops, et cetera. And they were shocked at the high success rate and high productivity. They thought if their staff was out of sight, that they were going to be, goofing off. And that hasn't been the case at all. And so again, luckily we haven't started to do any construction drawings or any design, but we're completely, pivoting, and they are going to have a permanent work from home strategy now.
Wow. Yeah. World's changing.
It is.
Hi, Christine.
Hi, Christine.
Thanks, guys. That was great. We do have a couple of questions, so we want to get through those. Christine needs her glasses, though, to read them. Okay. So we have one question, and they're asking, do you see where 6 feet between staff in an open office environment will be the norm going forward? Will cubicles need to have higher walls? Who wants to take that?
Well, I mean, Marlon, I think you should answer that 6-foot distance. But yeah, I'm already seeing workstations going from 42s. 51 is minimum. So seated privacy is 51 to 54. Panels are going up again. That's going to be the new norm. I believe that to be true.
Yeah, I think so too. And it doesn't mean that the panels have to be solid. A lot of the panel systems have a glass section at the top, so you can still have that that separation. a physical separation, but not a visual separation, because I think the visual separation is what everybody pushed back against. And I do think that that the 6 feet is going to be here to stay for quite a long time, even when it's not really necessary. Again, it's just people's comfort level, and I think that it's going to be a shock for a lot of people going back. Everyone's sort of settled in at home, and again, it's going to be shocking for people to go back. I also think there's going to be a pushback to more private offices again, because private offices, have gone by the wayside. And I look at law firms, and they never got rid of them. And I think there's going to be a return to more private offices.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
And by the way, the raising the panel heights, Marlon, you bring up a good point. Keeping it clear, keeping it glass. I know Plexi's a temporary, but typically you're going to go glass. It's cleanable. It's not the fabric issue that you're going to have with collection of germs and things like that. So.
Okay. And let's see. Do we have? Okay. So, do you see large conference rooms going away with Zoom taking the lead? Will the new office move to smaller huddle rooms to save money?
Yes, I think that's the case. We're, even if right now I'm looking at clients that have 10, 20 person conference rooms, and we're de-densifying them right now, so that you can have 6 foot spacing in between. And I think everybody again has seen the success of Zoom, and everybody doesn't physically have to be in the room anymore to be successful in communicating. So this is really an intersection of HR, IT, and planning, and combining those 3 resources to come up with a successful solution.
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. I don't know that we have any further questions right now, so I'm just going to say thank you, guys. Thanks for taking your time out of your day to be with us and use your expertise and explain things to our audience. I would also like to thank our production sponsor, April Setti and New Jersey Buzz Productions. If you're not familiar, again, with New Jersey Buzz, I highly recommend you following them on Facebook. Thank you all for tuning in. I do hope you'll join us again Tuesday, June 30th for our next Chamber Live broadcast at 12:30 p.m. Have a great day, everybody. And if you have questions for Marlon or Brett, please just contact the Chamber, and we're happy to put you in touch. Thanks again.
Thank
Great day.
Thanks,
Well,
thanks everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.